Hey y'all, iRick's Guy here. Now it's been over 6 weeks since I received my A7 III, and I just wanted to post a follow-up review. I've been remained adamant about posting a weekly follow-up review for the A7 III. I know that it's a camera that's in such high demand that it's probably still sold out most everywhere. Check the link within this video's description. You can find the A7 III, the 25mm lens that I'm using right now, the lavalier mic, and a whole lot more. But I just want to talk about what I've found that's both desirable and less than desirable with the A7 III. So the A7 III, also commonly referred to as a Sony a7 Mark III, is a base model camera. But it's by no means a base model camera. This camera, as you can see now, I'm in front of a green screen, and I probably got a little bit of funny colored light that's coming in right now into the studio. So it may not, my color may not look perfect, but that's because of the funky light that's coming in at the moment. But yeah, I mean, for 24 megapixel, again, you know, I came from A7R2, which was the previous generation of camera. Now, obviously, the A7R2 was 42 megapixel. This A7 III is only 24 megapixel. But a lot of people make the mistake of saying only 24 megapixel. 24 megapixel is often more than enough for most photographers. When you get into 42 megapixel, you're getting a larger canvas to work with. So for example, if I'm shooting landscape photography with a wide angle lens, using a 42 megapixel would be advantageous, because then within post-production, if I wanted to crop into a small object within that large photo, I could do it and lose a minimal amount of quality. Whereas with 24 megapixel, you can still do that, but because it's 24 megapixel versus 42, you're not going to notice as sharp a detail if you crop within post. But if you're using this camera to snap rock solid images right out of the camera that you don't plan to crop within post, this is probably more than enough, because 24 megapixel is a huge image. So that's something that I just wanted to toss out there, because there's a lot of other people like myself that are obsessing over the A7 III, and that's a comment that they've made. Now the video quality on this, you know, as you can tell, and check the link within this video's description, check out all my A7 III videos. The 4K video quality of the A7 III is the best yet. And the best, just so if you even throw out the fact that it's got the best autofocus on a Sony Alpha so far, if you throw that out there and you just look at the overall video quality, the video quality, because it's captured greater than 4K, looks better than a Sony a7R2. Now, I got some really rock solid video from my Sony a7R2, but most of it was in manual mode. And if you're used to filming face on video segments like this and in front of a green screen or out in the field, you probably know that if you don't have your film crew, that using manual focus can often be problematic. Sure, with manual focus, if you don't set too shallow of a depth of field, you can move around quite a bit, move closer to the camera, move further away. But if you want to use manual focus and get that shallow depth of field, for example, if I was in manual focus right now and I had a very shallow depth of field, I would probably start to go out of focus if I was in manual focus. That's what's so nice about this camera. The autofocus on this A7 III is just outstanding. And I am filming this video with an f2 aperture in front of a green screen. So it is just, even if you don't care about still photos, what I would encourage people to do is look at the, and again, the still photo quality from this camera is amazing. But what I would encourage you to do, if you're just looking for video, this camera is worth it for the video alone. Because again, the video is outstanding. The autofocus is outstanding. The battery life is outstanding. The battery life of the previous generation, A7R2 and A7S2, was horrible. I mean, it was semi-acceptable, but it was a situation where you had to go through multiple batteries. What I like about the A7 III is that I've got 2 batteries, and I haven't encountered a situation yet where I've been in the field all day that I had to use an additional battery. So I'm sticking to 2 batteries. Travel lighter, travel with less gear. You know, the A7 III is great for that because you don't have all those extra batteries. You can save that room for other stuff. Again, the body itself, if you hold an A7R III or an older A7R II, if you hold one back to back and you really scrutinize it, you're probably going to notice that the A7R III or the A7R II has more metal in the body. Am I saying that the A7 III is a shoddy construction with a lot of cheap plastic? By no means. You'll probably also notice that the knob on the top that you turn to switch among various modes, shutter priority, aperture priority, auto, video mode, that little dial, you'll probably notice that it doesn't have the nipple in the middle on the A7 III. Whereas with A7R III and A7R II, you had to push that little nipple down before you could turn the dial. But that dial on the A7 III is you know, you've got to apply quite a bit of pressure to make it turn. And if that inadvertently turns by itself when I'm out in the field using it, there is something wrong. I mean, I can't think of an amount of wind gust or anything else that would do that. I mean, unless it was knocked, and it was knocked with quite a bit of force, I don't know how that would turn by itself. And the other comment, obviously, is the EVF, you know, that you look through on the back. People say, man, it's not as good as the A7R III. You know, the quality's not as good. And they say the same thing about the LCD on the back, or the LED, I should say, display. And to be frank, if people hadn't told me when I was looking at the A7 III and using, and granted, I don't use focus peaking much anymore because manual focus on this camera is so good, I don't, you know, there's seldom a situation where I need to kick into manual mode. Now, there are situations where I still use manual mode with the A7 III. For example, if there's an object and it has text on it, and I'm shooting a still photo or video with a very shallow depth of field, and I want to put just a certain amount of text in peak focus, in that scenario, I would still use manual focus. But for 90 or 95% of my video and photo work, I use autofocus, and it works great. So this camera, this A7 III has been a real treat. And obviously, I've still got the Sony multi-shoe interface on the top. So if I'm not in the studio, I'm not using a lavalier mic, I use that, and it gets outstanding results. Same microphone that I use for my A7R II, and again, check the link within this video's description. You can find it there. So this camera is not disappointed. I have not encountered any overheating issues, and that's another huge sell, because previously with the A7R II, before one of the earlier firmware updates for the A7R II, the A7R II at times was plagued by overheating, and I have not encountered that at all with the A7 III. So this camera has been a real treat, and I wanted to mention that I am using the 25mm lens that you can find within this video's description to film this, but I do have it kicked into Super 35 mode, and that's another cool feature. This being a base model camera, if I throw a full frame lens on here, if I want it to look more zoomed, I just, using my custom menu. The custom menu is great. That's one of my favorite features with the A7 III. But I just go into my custom menu and I do APS-C on. And by putting APS-C on, that 25mm lens becomes in essence a zoom lens because it zooms in more. So that's a really cool feature, especially if you want to travel light, if you're like me and you're not a fan of zoom lenses, because typically even your higher end zoom lenses, their image quality is typically not as good. So, and one of the things with a lot of the higher quality zoom lenses is that, you're getting, that's Sean Coonery, the big Maine Coon cat. Check out his videos. And tune in every Monday for new Sean Coonery, the big Maine Coon cat videos. But, yeah, being able to use the toggle between APS-C and full frame is huge. Because typically I'm traveling, well, with this camera, the A7R II, I carried a 50mm, I carried an 85 and a 25. With this one, I carry the 25 and the 85 because both of those lenses are autofocus. And with those, there's no glass, no lenses that I'm aware of on the market today that can provide me with better image quality. So, for that reason, this setup And, you know, being able to toggle between APS-C and full frame really opens up the door for a lot of, well, you probably don't have to carry a zoom lens, which a high quality zoom lens is heavy. It's bulky. And I would much rather throw these two very high quality primes in their protective case and into my backpack and, you know, carry them around, one on my camera, one on my back. And it's just a, you know, a huge convenience. I'm trying to think of other things about this camera that have really fascinated me so far. I mean, again, I can just obsess and obsess over and over about the video quality and the you know, the still photo quality. I mean, this thing is rock solid. And what's funny, the fact that this is a base model camera, you know, if you look at it from a marketing perspective, is this Sony's attempt to just totally convert everyone, you know, your Nikon users, your Canon users? Did they release this base model camera to get people to enter the Sony E-mount ecosystem? Is that why they gave us such an awesome camera? They brought such an awesome camera to the market. And it is expensive, but such an affordable price point in comparison to other cameras. Did they do that because they want to bring everybody to the Sony mirrorless camp? I mean, once I converted to Sony, and I've used Canon in the past, I've used Nikon, I've used Lumix, you know, Panasonic Lumix, and those were all good cameras. But for my skill set, once I converted to Sony, I was able just to get rock solid saturation. I was able to get rock solid video results, and I didn't feel the need to use anything else. And then once I started buying the Sony E-mount lenses, the full frame lenses, why would I use anything else? So, you know, maybe that's Sony's way of saying, you know we're the best, and we acknowledge that we have more expensive cameras, but, you know, if we sell a base model camera for a palatable price for someone that's a serious camera consumer, you know, maybe we can get a lot more people addicted to the Sony ecosystem. And I think this is the camera that'll do just that. I mean, it is super rock solid, and it, you know, it makes me wonder though, you know, how do they feel? And I understand there's some people that have unlimited budgets, so, you know, they may still buy the A7Rs for their still photos, and they may still buy the A7Ss for their video stuff. But, you know, for most people that want, in my opinion, pro quality results, I mean, this thing it speaks for itself. I mean, I don't have to pump up the A7 III to make it sound like something it's not. I mean, it just is awesome, and there's no other way to describe the A7 III. So I'm curious if you've got an A7 III already. If so, what have your experiences been? You know, and that's the good, the negative, you know, everything, because it is hard, and I like to find negative aspects of anything. Check out my drone videos on my channel on youtube.com/iRickSky. You know, even though I may love a drone, I'm going to tell you what I don't like about it, and it has really hurt me to not be able to find things I dislike about the A7 III, because there is something, and that something is, and this is a trend among most all of the Sony Alpha cameras at this point in time, possibly all of them. I'd have to look and see, but the little the LCD screen on the back, you know, it'll pop out, it'll pop up, it'll kind of slide down so you can hold the camera above your head, or you can look down at it. But what it doesn't do is pop up so you can see yourself face on video. Like this segment that I'm filming right now, I'm looking at an externally connected field monitor, because that LCD screen on the back of the Sony a7 III will not go to the side, or it will not go straight up. So why Sony has not released that? I mean, they've got that capability with the, you know, the less expensive non-interchangeable lens RX100 series. That's a cool camera, by the way, but, you know, the screen on it'll pop up on the back so you can see what you're filming face on video. Why can't they bring us that in a future iteration of the Sony Alpha camera? I mean, is there a reason why they haven't done that? I mean, if they did that, I mean, this this A7 III would even be beyond perfect. I mean, it's incredible to see what we already get with the A7 III. But just thinking about that, I mean, why not take it to the next level? Why not give us more? But I don't know. I mean, it's an awesome camera. Again, check the link within this video's description. You can find the 25mm lens that I filmed this with. Again, I was in Super 35 APS-C mode, so I'm using 25mm lens, but I gave it that more zoomed in look by toggling. And you know, this lavalier microphone for my audio. It's just it's a wonderful setup. You know, any questions, feel free to comment within this video's description. I mean, it's ask me anything. I mean, again, this is the 6 weeks. This is me having used the Sony a7 III for 6 weeks, and again, I'm beyond stoked. So tell me what you think, and be sure to subscribe. YouTube.com/iRickSky. Y'all have a good day. Hey y'all, iRickSky here. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to subscribe, like, and share. It's viewers like you that enable my channel to continue to grow. Thank you.